Live. We are live. Hi, everybody. I'm Zovig Garboushian. I am the founder of Boldness Ablaze Coaching, and I am super happy to be here today talking to a teacher, a coach, and now someone I consider a friend, Robert Ellis, who is the founder of Coaching from Essence. So I'm going to bring you up, Robert. Hi.
Hi, Zovig. How you doing?
Good, thank you. I'm happy to be here with you, Robert.
I'm really happy to be here with you.
So we're talking about essence today, which has quickly become one of my favorite topics. It is part of everything I do as a coach, and in how I run my business and live my life, really. So for those who might be joining us that don't know or aren't as familiar with essence or coaching from essence, I'm hoping maybe you can just start us out all on the same page and tell us what coaching from essence is.
Sure. So coaching from essence is one way to think about it is that it's a language for creating. It's a kind of a loose network of ideas and models and frameworks for how to create things. And so for our clients, it's how to create a life you love on one level. But since most of our clients or most of my clients are executives, it's also about how to create yourself as a leader, how to create a successful organization, how to create a high-performing team, how to create a thriving culture, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
For the coaches that I work with, it's also how to create a thriving practice.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you create a way of coaching that is more congruent with who you are as a person and less formulaic? And how do you create a practice out of integrity so that it can support you to do the work that you want to do in the world?
Yeah.
So that's one way to think about coaching from essence.
Mm-hmm.
The essence of coaching from essence is the conviction that all of us have a natural way of being in the world that's valuable without any real thought or effort on our part. That's what I mean by essence.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk more about that, obviously. The aim of coaching from essence is to help people to disentangle themselves from their attachment to forms. We live in a world of form, all of the things and that we're surrounded by, but our thoughts are also forms. Our identity are forms, who we think we are in the world, our values, and so forth. And so how do we learn to disentangle our attachment to these forms, learn how to navigate forms, and ultimately to create forms that are more congruent with our essence, more congruent with who we are?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what coaching from essence is about.
I think the part so all of this speaks to me. Like it speaks to my heart, it speaks to my soul, it speaks to my intellect. But what really, I met you last summer and started working with you immediately and fell in love with the work you do because it feels so authentic, natural, and easy.
Yes.
And I think and that's what I'm always in search of more ease. How can I feel more ease in my own skin? How can I help my clients feel more at ease with themselves so that they can have clarity to make big choices and do hard things without so much of the noise? So I'm always in search of, forever in pursuit of more ease. And essence has given me, the concept of essence has given me ease, because the idea is I show up, no assembly required, right? And no batteries required, like as is, whole and perfect, which I've heard for many years in the work that I've done, like you are whole and perfect. And I got it, but essence helped me understand. For me, it just sort of locked it into place. Like, all of the things that I am, the ways that I am, how I be, how I think are not only okay, but if I do more of that, things will change and get easier for me.
Right.
So it was validating for me. And I love that often essence is the thing that people tell you shouldn't be, or maybe you shouldn't do, or maybe you got in trouble for as a kid. And so for me to rediscover that, those parts of me that I've been trying to manage for so long and sort of, put in a box or whatever, like not show, is what I should be doing more of.
Right. Yeah. And just to be clear, essence is something that's natural and innate. You didn't have to learn it.
Right.
that doesn't mean that you can't learn to be better at it.
Mhm.
We can still get better at it. We can still learn and develop other skills and abilities. But the dilemma, or I think the challenge that you're talking about, is most of us are brought up to be someone we're not.
Mhm.
Even if you were fortunate enough to have parents who supported you in expressing more of your natural self, we all went to school and we all had to learn the same thing. We all had to sit still in our little rows and our desks and so forth. We're surrounded by a culture that tells you there's something missing.
Yeah.
You're not enough. There's always something that you should buy or acquire that will make you complete or make you perfect, right? So we're surrounded by all kinds of messages that tell us that we're not okay as ourselves.
Mhm.
There's something missing or wrong. And we all develop different strategies to learn to navigate
Mhm.
that. And that's fine. We need to learn how to do that. Everyone has to, we can't all just have our own way all of the time. That's
Yeah.
not what essence is about. What essence is about is that we have some a natural way of being that if we nurture that and we create from that, like you say, one of the things that you notice right away is that it's easier.
Mhm.
It's easier to coach. It's
Yeah.
easier to live. It's
Yeah.
easier to create when you create from your essence.
Yeah, that's not to say things aren't hard and we don't face hard things.
Sure.
But it takes away a lot of the clutter and the
Mhm.
noise and helps me get to a resolution around things. Uh, and it's a smoother, more fluid way to get to a resolution around things
Mhm.
because I
Yeah,
find myself checking in and going, well, so part of my essence is being a fire starter. And
absolutely.
and so, boldness ablaze. So, I often, when I hesitate to do things, now I ask myself, well, how would a fire starter approach this?
Mm,
What
mm,
would a fire starter do here?
mhm,
And so it's given me sort of a home base to come back to.
mhm,
And so I can reground myself when I'm unsure of what to do or how to handle a business situation
mhm.
or how to
Yeah.
be with a client. If I find myself unsure on the spot with a client, how would a fire starter handle this? And then I get to
Mhm.
make choices. That's the thing.
Right.
It like allows me to make choices, right? I don't
Mhm,
have to be a fire starter in everything I do, but if I
mhm.
were to do that, what would that look like? And how would it help? What value
Yeah.
might it create? So I get to
Mhm,
make choices. More ease allows me to make more choices
mhm.
and feel freer in those choices.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that's interesting about that is like here we are, we're two coaches,
Yeah.
right? And we've only talked for a few minutes. Someone who doesn't know us would just be getting to know us, but someone who knew us or our clients would understand that energetically, you and I are very different.
Hmm.
Like you're more fiery.
Hmm.
Your energy is different than mine. So you coach in a way that's congruent with who you are. I coach in a way that's congruent with who I am. You probably had a similar experience to me, which was that for a long time I tried to be someone I wasn't.
Yes.
Before I got into doing the kind of coaching that I do now, and before I created Coaching from Essence, I mean, I've been a coach for 30 plus years.
Hmm.
Most of my coaching, though, was more skills-based coaching, management skills, presentation skills, things like that. Coaching from Essence, this work is much more personally as well as professionally
Hmm.
transformational. But for a long time, I tried to be someone I wasn't. I was supposed to be like an edutainer.
Hmm.
I worked with a training company, and that was sort of our approach to training is you've got to get up in front of the room and you're not just an educator, but you have to entertain people.
Yeah.
And that's not my essence. I'm not an entertainer. My energy is a little bit different. My way of showing up and being in conversation is a little bit different. I had to give myself permission to be who I was
Hmm.
and to create a form, a way of coaching that was more congruent with who I was.
Yeah.
Coaching from Essence doesn't say that you have to coach like me. Coaching from Essence, I think of the frameworks as sort of meta frameworks. In other words, they're ways for you to find your own essence and your own way of creating. And your way of creating and your way of coaching will be different from mine. But if you don't know about essence and you don't have a way of getting in touch with your essence, Coaching from Essence might help you do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Essence is usually within the first few sessions with an individual client. I also bring it into the group work that I do and the training that I do. But when I talk to clients, oftentimes they will start to identify their essence first as all of the, you described it a moment ago, as all of the things they developed to cope or to get through
Right.
life, like the different talents and strategies and things that we all get really good at. And so I always find that interesting because that's how we're trained, right? Like, well, I'm
Right.
this set of skills and I have this talent and everybody praises me for this, so this must be my essence. And I will usually remind them, essence is the thing that adds value to the world. Does that add value to the world? How does that add value to the world? And usually when I reinforce that piece of the definition of essence, the mindset starts to shift. And I know it did for me, like, oh, wait, the fact that I can do this, it's great, it's helped, but is it adding value to the world? I don't know. And that, I think, is the key part for me, the definition.
Yeah.
And then secondly is the without having to try, it's effortless.
Yeah, adding value to the world is definitely a part of it, right? It, like, essence is always a positive thing.
Yeah.
You can have a skill, you can learn a skill that isn't necessarily part of your essence that might also be valuable. It might even help you express more of your essence or help you create a form that's more congruent. But the way I think of it is, so let's talk about essence for a little bit. The first thing is, I like to keep essence a little bit mysterious. I like to keep it like a relationship, like I'm married to the most incredible beloved. And sometimes I sit across the dining room table and I look at her and I think, it just feels so right. It feels so familiar. It feels so comfortable and everything. And then there are other times when I look across the table at her and apparently I was recording an outdoor walk. Other times I look across the table and I look at her and I think, who is this person? What a wonderful mystery. Like, do I really know her at all?
Yeah.
And then I sort of see it all fresh, see her fresh. So I like to have that kind of relationship to essence because there's value, for example, in, doing some instruments like Myers-Briggs or StrengthsFinder or temperament or social styles. I've worked with most of those instruments. And it's fine. I think they can be valuable. I'm agnostic when it comes to them. And I think if you want to use something like that with your clients, you should use more than one. And the reason is that all of these instruments, even essence, is a way of talking about, like, looking at a person and saying, what does the inside of a person look like? What does the inside of an apple look like? If you cut it one way and you open it up, it looks one way. If you cut it another way and open it up, it looks a different way. So it's helpful to have more than one point of view so that you have a more three-dimensional view of somebody. But essence should be a little bit mysterious. It should be like a relationship with yourself that you're continually growing and getting to be more intimate with and know more. But so let's talk about what it is. Essence it's innate. It's something that's natural. You can develop it, you can learn, you can become better at it, but it's already there. Essence is not personality. Personality includes all of the things that you've learned, like you said, all of the strategies. The way I think of it, we're all the solution to a problem that no longer exists.
Yeah.
The problem is when we're growing up, we can't just fully express our essence all the time. We have to learn how to, navigate social space, be in relationship with other people. And so we have to learn how to please people, our caretakers and so forth when we're very young. And so one of the ways we do that is we develop strategies, and those strategies become, in a sense, a false self. We kind of put together a personality. Person, the word actually means like a mask. So it's the mask we wear so that we can appear in the world in a way where we can be accepted. So essence is not personality. I think of essence as a subset of personality. It's a part of the way we show up in the world, but personality also includes all of the things that we've learned and all of those other strategies. Essence is not the same thing as purpose. You can have multiple purposes. Essence is not the same thing as our passions. Passion is a love for something or a lot of energy or attraction to something. Essence, one of the things that's tricky about essence is because it's so natural and comes so easily and effortlessly, we're very likely not to have any idea what it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of transparent. We don't even notice it. Or if we do, we tend to devalue it or take it for granted because it comes so easily. It's not the same thing as our priorities or our values. Our values may or may not be congruent with our essence. That can be a problem, if we're trying to create a life that is resonant with our essence. So there's a lot of important distinctions that will help you to really, be able to grasp essence and to be able to use it. And yes, essence is always positive. It's a way of creating value. And as far as I've been able to tell from my personal experience and to work with lots of other coaches and clients and people like you, is that one of the secrets to being happy is to be able to express your essence. Your essence wants to be expressed in the world. And if it's not, then we get frustrated and happy.
Or worse. I feel like the more you that you are, the easier things can become. Not to say life doesn't throw you hard things. Things become easier within. Things become easier within. And that's something that the work with Coaching from Essence has given me. And it's not, as you said at the beginning, it's not just the concept of essence, but it's sort of a whole portfolio, if you will, of ideas and concepts and models that I've been able to take, consider, talk through, mold, and kind of reshape to the way they make sense for me. And I have to say, Robert, I really appreciate that about you and how you do your work. It aligns with how I see things too. Like, I'm going to give you this. This is one way to think about it. And you can take what works and you can take it and make it your own. Because I don't think there's only one way to be or do. There's no right of really anything. And what's right today could be different tomorrow. And what's right for me is different for you. And so, I've always not always, but for a long time found myself wondering, like, what is the right way? How should I be doing this? What should I be doing? What should I be saying? How should I do it? It's different every day. It's a lot of shoulds. It's a lot of shoulds. And so what the Coaching from Essence body of work has given me is more options, more considerations, more just a way to think about it. And it doesn't have to be the only way, but a lot of it is a good starting point for me.
Yeah. It really makes me happy to hear you say that, because that really is the intention about Coaching from Essence, is that, again, it's a language, it's a toolkit for discovering who you are and how to create from who you are. So it shouldn't be, I'm not interested in creating people to coach the way that I coach. You need to find who you are as a coach. It's the reason I don't certify coaches. There are no Coaching from Essence certified coaches. It's not a strict methodology that you either adhere to or you don't. Again, it's a way of thinking about who you are and how you coach, and some ideas and concepts and tools and models and frameworks that, again, I think of them as meta models to help you create your own way of working and creating yourself as a coach in your practice. One of the things I talk about too is we all have our essence, which is unique. We all have our experience, which is unique. Something in your bones that I don't know in my bones. You have all of your professional background. And so anyone who's coming to coaching or wants to be a coach, you already have something of value as a coach. If you have any professional or life experience at all, something that will be of value to somebody else. So there are no new coaches. You might be new to building a coaching practice, but you already have something. You have your essence and your bone knowledge and your experience and so forth. And that's valuable to somebody. So coaching from essence is just more tools to add to your toolkit, ways of thinking about it, how you might approach it, and how you might develop and release your own potential as a coach. And find your own way of coaching. One of the things that I really love about coaching from essence, I'm an executive coach. Almost all of my clients have been founders of startups, early stage startups, or companies that are getting ready to scale, like 50 to 500 people. Or I used to work much more with Fortune 500 companies and high level executives and things like that. But one of the things that I love about coaching from essence is that as a community, and coaching from essence is also a community of coaches. And the community is free. In fact, you can go through the entire coaching from essence training program. There have been 3 cohorts that were recorded on Zoom and are available free on the community forum. But one of the things I love about it is there are all kinds of coaches in the community. There are life coaches, executive coaches, wellness coaches, creativity coaches, so people are doing lots of different work, but some of these ideas are helpful regardless of what it is you're trying to create. They're really for anyone who wants to learn how to create. And so it's so I love that you say that you're taking it and making it yours.
And I love that it's a tool of creation. I mean, because that is all we're trying to do is what are we trying to create in the world, whether it be through our work, through our relationships, through our talents that we have. Because actually, I've got 2 thoughts about this. I love that it's about what are we trying to create, and that big question, right? And that big question is so open and can feel daunting, but can also feel exciting. Like, well, what am I trying to create in the world? I have a coaching practice. I'm also a speaker. I'm also a trainer. Those are the forms that my essence takes. Those are the forms that feel congruent for me, that I enjoy, that I feel skilled in. But I could have taken my essence and owned a chain of pottery painting studios, or something totally different, and still been a fire starter and a truth seeker. But the forms that those have taken, the forms that I have taken, that's what those are ways that I want to leave impact in the world. I enjoy the tactics of coaching and training and speaking, but I'm more interested in what echo it's creating, what impact it's creating in the world, because my hope is to change how people think about themselves. That's why I get up during that. The most effective work and experiences I've had with trainers and coaches and all the different programs and things that I've done over the years is when something changes how I think about myself. Because when I change how I think about myself, everything around me changes. Everything around me changes, Robert.
That's
my
right.
perception of myself drives how I engage with people, how I make my choices. If I'm low on myself or have a belief about myself that doesn't serve me, it affects my choices. And so Essence has given me a new way of thinking about myself that is, quite frankly, much more accepting. And that for me, that's invaluable, because if people can become more accepting of who we are and as we are not, again, things get easier. We feel more at ease. And so I had 2 thoughts, one escaped me, but that's my soapbox for the moment. So
that's right.
I just love that it's a tool of creation. It enables creation. Essence.
Yeah, it's the more you're creating from who you are, the easier it is. When you're trying to be someone you're not, it's stressful, right? And the purpose of Essence, or the work of Essence, is to create forms that are resonant with your essence and big enough for you to bring as much as possible of your best self into the world. So you're right. Like, you could have a pottery studio, or, it could take lots of forms. You didn't have to be a coach. But why is coaching so appealing to you? One of the reasons you said was because it's congruent with the value you have of creating a certain kind of impact in the world. Right?
Yeah.
But what, tell me why coaching and speaking and training is a more resonant form for you than something else.
Because it's very personal.
Okay.
Because the way that I coach and my approach to
Mhm.
coaching and therefore training is always from a place of heart.
Mhm.
So I love tactics and how to do things and all of that, but
Yeah.
underneath all of that for me is heart, and it's
Okay.
how we feel, and it's what we believe about ourselves and about the world around us. And
Mhm.
if we feel safe and comfortable with how we see ourselves, then the stuff we do is just that. It's tactics. I'm going to try
Mhm.
this and see how it works. I'm going to try that. So it's in coaching and speaking and training for me is a way to change how people think. And not that I have the right way of thinking. I don't actually care how
Sure.
you change how you think. But just
Right.
be open to changing how you think, right? That's my
Yeah.
whole thing. I'm going to give you
Right.
some stuff. You can try it much like you try it on, look at it,
Mhm.
give it a shot, put it in practice, see how it feels,
Mhm.
take what you like and leave the rest.
Mhm.
If it shifts how you see yourself and you feel like you can stand up taller and speak with more ease and express yourself in situations that at one point left you uncomfortable or unsure,
Mhm.
but now you are more comfortable and more sure, then we're doing something right. You're doing something right for yourself.
Mhm.
That's the kind
Great.
of impact I want to make.
Yeah. So what's great about this is what you've just shared tells us something about your essence.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, like I said earlier, I'm not a big believer in using instruments to try to get to your essence because they're too reductionistic. They're too simplified, and they don't make a distinction between essence and personality. So I'm not saying this is your essence,
Yeah.
but as a coach, like if I were having a coaching conversation with you, we're always listening for what our clients are telling us about their essence. We're also listening for their beliefs and their identity and their
Mhm.
values and things like that. But one of the things I heard is for you that one of the things that's so important for you about coaching is that there has to be a heart connection.
Yeah.
It's not a tactical thing. It's not an intellectual exercise. There's something about the way you show up as a coach that there has to be some heart in
Mhm.
it. And you might say that's a value, but very likely I would say that that's more something that's just natural about you, that if you're not expressing that or creating an opportunity for that connection to happen, then you're not showing up naturally and with
Yeah.
ease.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And then the other thing is that there's something about the way you show up as a coach that's about trying on different ways of thinking,
Yeah.
a certain kind of curiosity and flexibility and sort of an experimental mindset, which in coaching from essence we would call being on a quest,
Yeah.
turning everything into a quest.
Yeah.
Right. Like we don't have to know the answer. We just have to show up with our curiosity and try different things and see how fast we can learn things.
Yeah.
So, this is, I'm not saying that's your essence,
Yeah,
but
I
you're
understand.
nodding a lot and say, right?
Yeah.
Like there are different clues to your essence, and that's going to inform the way that you show up. And that's one of the reasons why coaching is so resonant for you. There's a lot more heart connection in this form, in this way of being in conversation with somebody else.
Yeah.
And so that's why it works so well for you and why you have your own way of doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we share certain things. I think most of the people who are attracted to coaching from Essence do have some similarities. There's a Venn diagram there
Yeah.
somewhere of people who are attracted to it, who do have a certain kind of curiosity and so forth. And that's one of the things that makes it appealing to them. But um, there's something about that that's going to inform the way that you show up. And what you're looking for, whether you're a coach or a leader
Mhm.
or an entrepreneur or whatever you're trying to create, there's something about knowing more about your essence and creating a form that is resonant with that gives you an opportunity to express more of it.
Mhm.
And that's why I wanted to create this way of working. When I was coaching and doing skills-based coaching, it wasn't very satisfying.
Yeah.
I had to really look at that and figure out, so why isn't this satisfying?
Yeah.
It's lucrative. I'm getting good results. It's all great, but it's not feeding me. And what I realized is that, just like you, part of my essence was I wanted to create relationships, not
Mhm.
transactions.
Mhm.
I wanted to create more intimacy and connection. And part of the reason for that was not just that my essence really enjoys that, enjoys that connection and needs, craves that connection, but also that sort of one of my core beliefs is we can't separate who we are personally from who we are professionally.
I agree.
And so I wanted to do personal work as well as professional work.
Mhm.
And with the leaders I work with, a lot of times it's very tactical, or it's very strategic. It's very much professional. It's very much focused on solving problems and challenges that they have as a leader, more practical issues. But without doing that personal work, it's not nearly as powerful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I noticed we have a few comments, Robert, so I just wanted to
sure.
check those. So, Jonathan says, "Hi, everyone. Great to be here and loving the unpacking of the essence." And then Chris Hare, who is somebody that I actually just recently met. Hi, Chris. I love that fire starter. So he's new to your work. So I'm happy he's here
Oh,
as well.
good. Hey,
Yeah.
Chris, welcome. Hey,
Yeah.
Jonathan. I'm happy you're on the call.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, just please put them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So I want to talk for a second about your book,
oh,
because
good.
I've read it. I have two copies of it, the original
Okay.
unedited version and the most recent version. And the reason I want to talk about it is because, I've read it cover to cover several times. It's kind of like a resource manual for me at this point.
Mm.
Like, I will look things up and, okay, how did he explain that? And then that's right. How am
Mm.
I going to explain this? I have incorporated the models, the language, the concept of essence into so many things.
Mm.
Like I said, into how I build my business, into how I do training, whether I mention essence proper or not in a training,
Sure. Mm.
essence is underneath it all, right?
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
always getting to the, well, who are you naturally?
Mhm.
How are you, when are you in flow? So it's always part of it, because not every training session can incorporate that, but it's always
Sure.
running it's like in the background. And the
Mhm.
book itself, while it seems, as you said, while it seems to be for coaches, it
Mhm.
actually, I've given it to a couple of clients because
Mhm.
it really is I don't know if guide is the word you would use, but it offers some level of, I don't know, wayfinding or something like
Mhm.
guiding to how you want to live. Here's an
Mhm.
option. Another, and even the way you
Yeah.
position it, it's written so casually, like, here's a way to think about it. And I
Right.
love that it's not chronological. It's got a collection of stories and models
Mhm.
and principles and
Mhm.
um, but I use it. I use it to write emails. I use it to remind myself how to talk about certain models. Oh,
Mhm.
I have different models I share with different clients depending on where they are. I don't
Mhm.
share everything all with
Sure.
everyone, but I
Mhm.
love even that how you have set it up. There's variety in
Mhm.
the body of work of coaching from Essence.
Yeah.
There's different stories. There's different. It can appeal to people with different ways of thinking. I'm very
Mm.
watercolor. I'm not very linear. I like to pick and choose the pieces of things. I haven't read your book in order, but I have read
Mm.
the whole book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today, I
It's
think
good.
I'll read this.
You don't need to read it in order. Yeah.
Right, right.
That's
So
good.
I just would love for you to just share a little bit about what the process of creating that was like, because
Mm.
I feel like, as somebody who's developing her own
Mhm.
models and principles and ways of thinking, as I'm noticing they repeat in situations, like, oh, this is how I think about this. This could be
Sure.
a model. This could be
Mhm.
a way. How did all of that come about for you? Of something I've been wanting to ask you for a long time. How did you
Mm.
decide this is something I'm taking and making my own? Like, what was that
Mhm.
process like?
Well, so it's a really interesting question, because there's some different ways that I could answer that. One
Okay.
is that um, I went through sort of one way of thinking of it as a dark night of the soul or a
Yeah.
crisis of faith or whatever. Again, I was a coach and trainer and facilitator and so forth for about 30 years or almost 30 years when I realized that I was not happy with the way I was working. It was not satisfying. It was not fulfilling. And so I was really looking for a way to not really reinvent myself, but just really find out who I was and how I could show up in the world more as myself. I didn't want to be an edutainer. I didn't want to pretend to be someone I wasn't. A lot of the training I was doing, I worked for a training company, actually various training companies, because I worked for a training company. And at a certain point, that company went through some changes and there was like a diaspora of all the trainers. A lot of trainers left and we sort of did our own thing. And over a number of years, we would contract with each other if we had a client that was too big for us to take on individually. But so I was doing a lot of other people's stuff, and I was doing a lot of work that wasn't personally fulfilling.
Yeah.
So I went through a period where I thought, I have to figure out a way to be myself in my work. Not just in my work. I mean, personally, I wanted to show up differently, but in my work, I thought, I really want to show up more as myself. So I went on a quest. I didn't have that language at the beginning, but, I didn't know what the answer was. It wasn't a path. I didn't know exactly what it looked like. What I'm talking about, which I talk about it in the book, is all we're trying to do is get from A to B.
Yeah.
If you know what B is, and you know what A is, you know where you are now, which sometimes we don't really know where we are. But if you know where A is and you know where B is, most of the time we're just looking for the shortest distance between 2 points, and we can reverse engineer that. And that's what I call a path. And to navigate a path, you just need to that's management. You need a project management.
Yeah.
It's a project management challenge. So I didn't know what B was. I didn't know what was possible, and I didn't know what it would look like. So I tried to imagine it, and my B became the best thing I could imagine. But what I really wanted was what I call B prime. I wanted to go on a quest, on an adventure, and try some things and learn some things and see what was possible. So in that process, I created some models of my own, some frameworks of my own based on my experience working. And then I adapted a few models that were not my models, but I started to use them in a way that was different than the way I had, seen them used. So it was a combination of, again, it's sort of a loose network of ideas and concepts and models and frameworks for understanding how to create. And I like that you say, you're kind of a watercolor person.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is pretty watercolor.
Yeah.
You can think of them as different colors or paintbrushes or tools and so forth. There are some things that are a little bit linear, and so they're kind of fallbacks. They're sort of maps so that you can, or compasses, I think of them more than maps, so that at least you can directionally know where you are and where you're headed. But so the process for me was I started cobbling all these things together, and I started applying them not just to my coaching, but also the way that I was creating clients. So like you say, there's the book, everything in the book, here's the book.
That's it. Yeah.
Everything in the book really applies to any person who wants to create a life they love, or any leader who wants to create a successful organization, with the exception, there's a section in here called the Red Paper Club, which is about practice building.
Yeah.
So if you skip that section, if you're not a coach, you can skip that section. But so what happened was, people started asking me, I had a lot of friends who were coaches, and they started asking me, what are you doing? You're creating this, I would start to tell them about my success. And they said, what are you doing? How are you doing that? And they would, ask to buy me lunch or coffee or whatever. And so after a number of people had bought me coffee and lunch,
you were caffeinated.
There's something to this. So there was no coaching from essence. There was just me sort of cobbling together things and trying them, and they were working, and I was they were working with my clients and they were working for me to build a practice. And at a certain point, I thought, well, maybe there's something to this. Like, it's what you call weak signals. Things are showing up. And the first time it happened, I thought, oh, that's interesting. The second time it happened, I thought, After it happened 5 or 6 times, it's like, wait a second, maybe there's something here. So in 2019, I posted a post on Facebook and said, I'm going to do a training in January of 2020. And within a couple of days, 21 people signed up.
Yeah.
There was no coaching from Essence. There was no curriculum. I had no idea. I mean, I shouldn't say I had no idea. I had some idea, but there was no course. There was nothing designed. I didn't know what it was going to be. After I did that cohort, COVID happened and everything moved online. When it moved online, I decided, it's pretty tedious to be on Zoom all weekend. So I created it as a program where it met over 3 months, 6 sessions, twice a month for 3 months. So now I'm getting to the answer to your question. The way the book was written was, for every session, I wanted to have some readings for people. I'm not a very disciplined writer.
Okay.
But I knew that they needed at least a few days, head start before the session. And so I sort of created an outline at the beginning. And then every 2 weeks, I did a sprint where I wrote a handful of posts. By the way, those posts, which are the very rough first draft of the book, are available on the community platform, and you can read that for free. You can read that for free if you want. And you can watch. There were 3 cohorts that were recorded on Zoom, and you can watch the entire program. The first cohort, people paid $3,500 to go through the training. You can watch the complete program 3 times now, completely free. But so that was the first draft. And then I actually really struggled with writing the book for a couple of years. I was really stuck because I kept going back and forth. I thought, do I really want to write a book for coaches? Maybe I should write it for a more general audience. Maybe how much of there's a little bit of my experience in there, but how much do I want that? Does that even belong there? Should I have more of it there? I was really stuck. And I had a couple of writing coaches, actually. One of the most interesting things that they told me was, one of them said, you have 3 voices here. One is the coach, you write like you're coaching somebody. One is the teacher, you're teaching, certain things. And one is the wise friend. And she said, write the book from the wise friend perspective. Yeah. So I didn't completely rewrite the book, but I did think about that when I was sort of editing it, and I changed something. I tweaked some things and I rearranged some things. You have 2 copies of the book because last fall, when we did a retreat last September, and I started to write a workbook, and I thought, this is a complete waste of time. Why am I doing this? So I thought I really wanted to give you and the participants the book. So that's where the first one came. So that was like another edit from the original. And then after I did that, I thought, and I saw it, I don't have that version of it, but after I saw that version, I thought, this is a book. Like, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, this is part of Essence, you see, is trusting that what we have to offer is valuable. And just like most people, I looked at it and I thought, is it good enough? Is it complete? Is it good enough? Could I do better? Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. It could be improved. Maybe there'll be a second edition. But in the meantime, there's something of real value here. And we, as creators, we need to come to a point where we're willing to let go of our creations and let them be in the world. And so I decided that I needed to let it go.
Yeah.
So I did go through another edit. I hired a professional editor. I took another pass through the manuscript, and then I published it.
Yeah.
Um, so that was the process. Part of it is my intention is always to create value. So, this is one of the things we talk about in the client creation sprint.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of people posting on LinkedIn, and they post these little posts, and they're mostly about their personal experience and things like that, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really want to create a following, or you want to draw people to you, the best way to do it is to really create value. So write things, make your own unique contribution, your own thought leadership. Write things that are valuable in themselves. Like, really, when you write something, think about offering somebody something. And that's what each of the posts was that I wrote for the course, because I tried to distill an idea or a framework or something.
Yeah.
And then you need to let it go. Like, you need to. I've talked to so many coaches who tell me, yeah, well, I have drafts of things. Why haven't you posted them?
Yeah. I loved how you described the process of creation. I'm in this year, my quest, Robert, at the beginning of the year, was, what does unleashed creativity look like?
I love it.
There was something in me that knew that I wasn't being creative enough, and I didn't know what form the creativity would take. Turns out this time around, it's taking the form of speaking. And I'm in an incredible, professional speaking course where I am bringing my essence to the writing of the speech and to the performance of the speech. And essence has been with me along this journey, because it has been a very transformational, creative journey. And being able to write, whether it's writing or whatever your form is, right? Putting your ideas out there, yes, can feel vulnerable. Creating a business where you are helping people is a vulnerable thing. Writing something, putting a period on it and sending it out, and then letting people respond to it or react to it however they might, is a vulnerable thing. It is not always the easiest, and it doesn't always feel easeful to do it. But my essence, I have noticed, won't let me shut up. So I got, and that's the stuff I got in trouble for as a kid. She's a great student, but she talks too much.
Yeah.
And so it cracks me up how the thing that is driving me now is the thing that I was told, put a lid on it when I was little. But my point in all this is, it can drive creativity. The process of writing the book was a process of creativity and creation, and getting ideas from here to here in a way that resonates with people and will add value to their lives. And I think that's what makes creativity important for me. I'm not a painter. I don't want to just create to create. I want to create in a way that creates value for others.
Sure.
And use my creativity for that purpose. And in order to do that in a way, in order to create value, I have to come from my essence. I have to come from a little bit of fire starting, a little bit of truth seeking, a little bit of big heart connection, as you added to the pot, otherwise it doesn't feel right for me. And I know it's not adding the kind of value I wanted to add.
Yeah.
You just,
I love I love what you said about your essence was something you got in trouble for as a kid.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm not saying that that's 100% reliable clue, but it's a good clue.
I think it's a clue.
Like, if you ask yourself, one thing we haven't talked about is how you get at essence. Again, I said that, instruments are of limited value. I wouldn't say they're of no value. Like, it can be really useful to, use some of those personality instruments and so forth. But again, they don't make a distinction between personality and essence, but they can give you some clues. But the best clues are the clues you get from yourself and from other people. So if you ask yourself, what did you get in trouble for as a kid? There's some things that aren't your essence that you got in trouble for.
Sure. But
there are some things where you were just expressing yourself.
Yeah.
And, and your parents had to put a lid on it. Okay. So they can be clues. The things that you were attracted to that you did naturally that you couldn't help yourself when you were younger, or that maybe you can't even help yourself now.
Mhm.
Like you can't not do your
Yeah.
essence. You have
Yeah.
to do it. It will always seek expression in some way, regardless of what form you're in, whether you're entangled in a form that doesn't fit you or whether you're in a form that is resonant and open enough for you to express more of it. Your essence always looks for an out.
Mhm.
Ask yourself what you were naturally attracted to when you were younger. Ask your clients, how do you show up? What is it they value most about you?
Yeah.
Um, all of those things can be clues to essence. As a coach, I'm always listening for when someone is telling me about how they're showing up and what's working or not working or where they feel frustrated. Your
Mhm.
frustrations are often a clue to your essence,
Yeah.
because your essence, if it's not being expressed, you'll experience it as
Yeah.
frustration. So,
Also, what is another one of the essence questions, so to speak, when you're
mhm,
thinking about it, is what's the thread
yep,
that's run through everything you've ever done? For me,
exactly. Yep.
first 15 years of my career was in marketing,
Mm,
and not my strengths, not my
mhm.
essence. And
Yeah.
that was like where I could really see the distinction between someone's strengths and skill set and their essence.
Yeah.
But in that time, I always found a way to be in front of people. I always found a way to
Mhm.
teach. I would teach knitting classes at lunch. I would always find a way to help change how people thought in different ways.
Mhm.
And then I moved into organizational development. And so I was in
Mm.
training. I even was a personal shopper for about
Uh-huh.
7 years for women. And the only reason I did it, Robert, was because I wanted to help women feel differently about who they were
Mm.
through their wardrobe.
Mhm.
I happen to
Right.
love fashion, so it was a fun form for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wasn't in it for the clothes. I was in it
Right.
to help women feel more comfortable and grounded in who they were, no matter what no
Mhm.
matter what the body shape was.
Mhm.
So I always
So
found a way, and that was the thread.
yeah, I love that. Those are great examples because, like you say, you taught knitting.
Mhm.
If you didn't have the distinction between form and essence, you might think, "Oh, well, it's something about knitting,"
Yeah. It
right?
wasn't about
It wasn't
knitting.
about knitting, it was about teaching.
Yeah.
So, I talk about in the book my sort of checkered history, my eclectic background. I've done
Mhm.
everything from being a broker to selling new, cars. I always make the distinction. I never sold used cars,
Yeah.
new cars. I was a talent manager. I used to book rock bands and disco bands. This is a long time ago in Detroit. But when I looked at all of those different forms, what they all had in common was that I was trying to help people get what they wanted to create. I was trying to help them either get more money or fame or, you know, uh, whatever they thought a car represented to them. I was always trying to help people get what it was they wanted.
Yeah.
And coaching is just the biggest possible container for that I can imagine. All I do now is help people get what they want, create
Mhm.
what they want.
Mhm.
So it's interesting that you can kind of see the distinction. And for
Yeah.
you, being a personal shopper was not about the form of shopping. It's about you want to help empower women.
Mhm.
And actually, this would be a good place for you to talk
Yeah.
about your Leading from Essence program,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
for women.
So Essence inspired me to create it's a 2-day women's leadership immersion.
Mhm.
I do primarily my clients are women, though not solely women. I do
Mhm.
coach many men, and I coach groups and teams. But a lot of my heart lies in advancing women in leadership and helping level that playing field. And so I've done a ton of leadership trainings, like taken and gone to and participated in. And there was
Mhm.
always something missing for me. And I think it was the heart piece of it.
Mhm.
And it was the message that you can and should think about being more of yourself in
Mhm.
everything you do, because we're always being told, do it this way, do it that way. You know what you need. And I'm over that. And I know the many women that I have worked with are over that too. But then we get so disconnected from, well, what
Mhm.
do I think is the best way to lead? How do I want to respond in this situation? So the program is designed around essence is the foundation. We
Mhm.
talk about how to use your voice, your leadership vision, how your relationship with money, and all the topics that are relevant for women in leadership today, but we do it through the lens of essence. So I hosted the first cohort in March, and it was a moment where I did what you say, which is to begin before you're ready. I did not think I was ready to do it. And I said, I'm putting it out, and that's what's happening. And it was a great success. And I had incredible women. So we're doing second version in September. It's in person because I think that's really special. And it's in Seattle. The website's on the screen here if you're interested. But it's a creation, and it is like you and your book, a collection of all of the things that I have learned through my own personal and professional development and training and certifications for the last 25 years. Because I've always taken what works for me from different disciplines and models, and now I've kind of munged them together to create a really fun and deeply personal experience in leadership. And so that was all inspired by Leadership Essence. And the content was inspired, but also the guts to put it out there was inspired by Leadership Essence and the work that I did with you all last summer and into the fall. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. That it makes me really happy to see you doing that because, you know, I like that you said begin before you're ready. There's so many people I work with who tell me about their dreams, and yet they don't take the first action to do it. You know, I thought about doing this kind of work 20 years ago, and I don't know why I didn't do it. The reason I didn't do it is I was afraid. You know, most of us are afraid of, if you put yourself out there, you might get rejected. But you might also find the people who will benefit from what you have to offer might find you, and it might make a really big difference for them. And so that's, once you get over that initial hesitation and you start to create, you have to put yourself out there in order to create and to learn. But once you do that, then it becomes very self-reinforcing. So we're almost out of time here.
But I want to be sure people can find you in the community. I'm part of the community. It is a wonderful community of people all on their own quests, all discovering how to build their businesses and their lives as coaches and giving value. And like you said, all of your material and everything you've taught is there, and you can watch it at your leisure. And it's like a fountain of resources around coaching from Essence and good people. Some of my very good friends are in that community. So
there are over 400 coaches in the Coaching from Essence community now, and the entire program is there, available free. There's client creation sprints. You can watch videos. There's well over 100, probably a couple hundred hours of video there that you can watch now, completely free. And you can also post questions. If you have other questions, you can post your questions in the forum. I'm pretty active and responsive there, as are a number of other coaches. I'm also going to be doing what I call a Master Coach program in August. And I know this is a little bit of a gnarly URL here, but if you want more information or to apply to that, you can go to the link that's on your screen now. The Master Coach program meets weekly, and it's limited to 12 people. Mostly what I do in there is I coach coaches. So if you're a coach and you feel like you're not doing work as powerful as you want, or you're not building the practice that you want, you should be familiar with the Coaching from Essence curriculum. Either take the course for free on the forum or buy the book on Amazon. But this is to help you kind of take it to the next level or break through wherever you are stuck. And you can also get on my mailing list if you go to coachingfromessence.com. You can get all the information in there. Zovig, this was so much fun.
It was, Robert. Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for hosting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, everybody take care. Everybody have good days, and thanks for joining us, and see you all soon.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.